Across the border, life is slowly returning to normal in Gaza 3 days after Hamas militants and Israel agreed to stop fighting. Children returned to school today, and despite a shooting near the border yesterday that reportedly left one Palestinian dead, the ceasefire is holding. The next phase of the truce talks on potentially easing Israel's economic blockade in Gaza and opening border crossings. So the hope is this ceasefire will hold. Joining us right now is a man who knows the area quite well. Edward Djerejian is the former U.S. ambassador to both Israel and Syria. He helped establish the James Baker Institute for Public Policy at Rice University in Houston. Ambassador, good to see you.
Good to see you, Frederica.
So how confident are you about this truce thus far?
Well, so far I think it's holding, and that's obviously a good sign. There have been some minor violations. But the important thing, Frederica, is to build on this truce. In every crisis, I think there's an opportunity. And if the truce is just to become a prolonged truce, only to be broken, say, a year or two down the road, and we're faced with a similar crisis that we've just seen in the last 12 days, then that I do not think is a successful outcome.
So this truce is contingent upon what? Besides both sides trying to be as peaceful as possible?
Well, obviously a sustained ceasefire. The Israelis do not want arms to be smuggled in and rockets to be smuggled into Gaza during the truce, in order to avoid what we've just seen, the rocket shellings in South Israel and beyond, close to Tel Aviv and even Jerusalem. And then on the Palestinian side, they want to end the targeting of Hamas leaders. They want the border crossings, the Gaza border crossings, to be open so that trade, commerce, and people can move more freely in the Gaza Strip. I mean, those are two of the major parts of the ceasefire.
And then how do you assess the victories? Because both sides are claiming some victories here. Israel being able to show its muscle and the Iron Dome working. Hamas being able to demonstrate that it has missiles that could reach as far as Tel Aviv and has the support of Iran. How do you assess things here?
Well, each side is claiming the most positive outcome for obvious political reasons, both domestically and internationally. But again, if we can just step back, Federica, we've seen this act before. And if all we're going to do, both in terms of the Israelis and the Palestinians and the international community and the Arab countries involved, is to just manage these crises as they erupt, I do not consider this to be a very positive outcome. What we'll be doing is building on this ceasefire to get a viable Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement in place. Now, that's a high hurdle, and it may sound idealistic at this point, but I think with President Obama's re-election, with Israeli elections coming up in January 22nd, with Abu Mazen, the head of the Palestinian Authority, going to the UN to ask for non-member state status for the Palestinian Authority, for Palestine, I think instead of looking upon all of this in a negative way, we should build on it.
And then we're looking at pictures that involved Egypt's president, Mohammed Morsi. How do you see his role here? When at first, earlier in the week, it was considered that he played a very strong leadership role here and used his leverage as well. But then now, with the power grab that he is entertaining in Egypt, days after helping to broker this ceasefire, is his role now being looked at or assessed differently?
No, I think what we have to look at is President Morsi's international role, and he played a critical role, and he played a positive role as being a very valid interlocutor between Hamas and the Israelis. I mean, you had an Israeli delegation in Cairo working out this deal under Egyptian aegis, and I think Morsi played a positive role in helping gain the ceasefire. So that, I think, is one part of Morsi. The other part of Morsi is, as the first Muslim Brotherhood president of Egypt, he has a domestic agenda. And his domestic agenda is now being challenged by, as you mentioned, Frederica, these power grabs with the judiciary and the legislature. So what's key here is that Morsi, as a Muslim president, has to prove that he can govern Egypt effectively. And you just can't do it by religion alone. There's a joke in the Arab world, you can't govern by inshallah alone, if God wills. He's got to face the same problems that the Mubaraks and every secular leader in Egypt has faced. Jobs, broadened political participation, social justice, and developing the economy. And so he is trying to do this by this political move he's made that is now being contested.
Ambassador Edward Djerejian, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Frederick.